So Blender just crashed on me. Let's go back, and as I was saying, I'm mimicking Vitaly Bulgarov's workflow. He's doing this in Moi with the line tool. I think it's called the polyline, and he draws these shapes from the side view until his design is complete, and then from those lines he extrudes them, transforms them into solids, and moves on from there. I actually have the Moi software, but I was just curious if I can mimic that kind of workflow in here. So there's nothing complicated. You either create a box or a cylinder, and then you merge everything into a single vertex, and then you start extruding that vertex to create your design. Or there is an add-on that you need to activate, and it has add a single vertex basically. I don't remember which one is the add-on because I would tell you, but yeah, you can do the same thing with the just by adding a cube and then selecting everything inside the cube, all the vertices or faces, and hit merge to center. Alright, so you just saw me extruding some of those drawings. The way I did that, there's not a single operation like in Moi where you just select the thing and extrude it. Here you have to select the shape, hit F twice, because if you hit it only once, it's just gonna create the inside with some diagonals that connects all the points. Basically, it only tries to make how do you call them? Polygons with 4 sides. Quads. Jesus, I can't believe I forgot that. And the second F just gives me the shape without those lines inside. So now if I want to inset, it's very easy. And it's gonna inset very nicely too. Sorry if I'm gonna repeat myself. I actually recorded a lot and well, I thought I was recording, and the recording software kind of crashed on me, and I lost the recording, so now I don't remember what I talked about, and I don't really want to go back and re-listen to everything I said, so I'm just gonna try to say new things and repeat what I said, and it's forever lost. So definitely go on YouTube and check Vitaly's workflow. He has a few videos that still work. The one with the slot, I just checked it like a few weeks ago, and he does a mechanical slot, and he uses a lot of techniques that I stole from him. And I'm mimicking in Blender. The only thing that doesn't really work in Blender as it works in Softimage, the software that he uses for poly modeling, is the subdivision modifier. Like, for some reason in Blender works a bit different. You need to tell Blender what edges do you want to be creased and what to subsurf, and that gives you like different results. So it's kind of weird sometimes. And also go check Torfreak, because he has videos that are not sped up. It's just him modeling like a crazy person. and it's crazy how much that guy can achieve in a single day, like just a few hours of work. And since I'm shouting out people, let's shout out a few Blender people that really help me do things better through add-ons or just their tutorials. One of them is Chris Kuhn from CG Cookie. I think he was with them at some point. He does really amazing mechanical tutorials, aircrafts, spaceships, all that stuff, and he has some about rigging too, mechanical rigging on CG Cookie that I found quite interesting, and I'm currently trying to master. Here on this piece, Blender is gonna crash a few times on me, so I'm gonna skip ahead and save you the pain of watching the same thing 3 times in a row. Alright, here is gonna crash the last time, but let me explain first what I did. So I did a circle, I selected everything, extruded it a bit, and then I shift selected the yellow part, and I use knife project, and like that I can just cut stuff. And then Blender crashed on me again one more time, and now it's fine. So yeah, Chris Plush, that has also amazing tutorials about car modeling and in general hard surface too. His most recent course is creating a Corvette Stingray in Blender, and he really takes accurate modeling to the next level with the shrink wrap modifier and creating meshes that are guides for your ultimate meshes that you're gonna shrink wrap on those guide meshes. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's not very complicated, it's a simple workflow, but it's amazing what you can achieve. Midge Sinev, the Mantissa, on YouTube, if you want to learn how to model different compared to all these other people that use traditional poly modeling. This guy models with modifiers, and the results couldn't be crazier. Master Zion, of course, check his YouTube. He has some crazy videos on how to make mech busts. I learned a lot from him. Just him, he's also very funny when he talks. He kind of creates a story while he's modeling, so it's it's very entertaining. Wazoo, also, he made a lot of tutorials and videos about how to use his plugins, basically, because he does not plugins, add-ons. He has an asset manager that I use, Speed Retopo, Speed Sculpt, and many more that I forget about right now. A machine. If you want to understand his add-ons, go on his YouTube. He has videos for everything, and also it can give you ideas what you can do, because he has some crazy projects on his own that blow your mind. Let's talk a bit about what I'm doing here. I'm testing again the dynamics, and just in case, I just want to check if this is recording right now. Yes, because I don't want to go again for 2 hours and realize that I didn't record anything. Alright, here I'm cleaning up the kit bash part that I built to spam around the model, and I'm building a new one I imagine it's like a base for putting like a shovel or a knife. Yeah, nothing fancy. Also, I don't think I needed to clean up that much because this part is gonna be pretty small. So even if we voxelize it with VDB remesher, it's gonna be fine. In real life, I don't talk that much. So right now, just talking this much, it makes my throat hurt. I need to constantly drink water. Okay, linking the materials. Or no, here I decided to spin those guys for... They were bothering me for some reason. Okay, I'm gonna speed up the video a bit. Trying to take that bar from the back that we created with the skin modifier and the subsurf and reapply it somewhere else, but I don't really like it, so I gave up on it. By the way, to snap your view, just press middle mouse button to rotate, and if you hold Alt to this combination, your view is gonna snap. So whenever you see a grid, I'm snapping the view. So this is pure from the left view, and here I was trying to reuse that forearm part, but I don't really like it, so... And I didn't end up using it, so I'm gonna skip forward because I'm gonna build a new part here using the same technique where I had a single vertex and I extrude it a few times to generate the basic shape. Also here on this piece that used to be yellow, you can see now it's wireframe, and I did that because I wanted to see through, so I know how big I need to make this gray part that's in the interior. So the way you do that, you select your object and you come here and choose, instead of texture, you choose wire. And then your object is gonna appear like this in the scene. It's pretty useful. And when you're done, you can switch it back. Here I'm using the knife tool to draw on this shape and extrude that part. The shortcut for the knife tool is K. Here you saw me mirror the whole piece with... I use Ctrl-Shift-X, but I don't remember if that's a custom shortcut that I set up or it's part of HardOps. So go check it out and see. Also, Blender has a very easy way to set up shortcuts. Whenever you see a button, just right click on that button and choose setup new shortcut or add new shortcut. It's very easy to put in your shortcuts as you want. Sometimes I don't know what to do and they just spin around like this. Apparently I'm testing out the rigging because I look at it and it's so nice to me to see the parts moving. So yeah, you see me testing like a few times the same part, even though I know it moves. I just want to see it again, you know. Okay, here I think I'm gonna separate the cockpit on a different layer, so it's easier to work on. You just select the objects that you want and press M, and a pop-up menu will come up with a grid, and then you choose on which layer you want your object to be in. It's nothing complicated. I don't think this sphere is gonna make it in the final cut. Here I'm adjusting the pelvis shape a bit. Here I'm trying to close the areas around the cockpit, so it's much nicer. And here I added a subsurf modifier that I don't really like what it did, and later on I'm gonna change everything here. And here for a second you see me using this aligned curve. I'm not sure if that's the name of the tool, but you can find it in hard ops. And basically you select your vertices or edges, and then you draw a curve, and then they're gonna align to that, so it's super cool. Because you can control your points. Okay, nothing much to say here. I really hate how lumpy and bumpy the shell of the cockpit looks like right now, but I'm gonna change it in the future. Just looking at this cylinder, this is a reminder when you add cylinders in the scene, just add them with a lot of resolution, especially if you care to follow my workflow and you don't care about low res stuff. And because later on when you're gonna remesh this, if you have a low res cylinder, you have to go through all those steps to make it a bit higher res, through creasing edges and applying a subsurf modifier, and then you get the results that you just saw, where the caps have a lot of shitty geometry, and there's no point going through those. And here, this pelvis part I kept on remeshing, because I really like this remesher thing, but you don't need to do that. You just need to do it once at the end. I think I was doing that because I didn't know what to do next. So you can do all the booleans, add all the geometry that you want, then you just select them all, Ctrl J to join, and then remesh, and it should be fine. I was just happy for my new tool. OpenVDB Remesher is a paid add-on. For what it does, it's super useful. If you guys want to learn how to model without add-ons, just with straight up Blender, out of the box Blender, I mean, just buy Gleb Alexandrov's and Adi Barrow's hard surface modeling techniques tutorial. They're gonna show you the Blender add-on-less way to do things. But in my opinion, it's worth to invest in all the add-ons, because they just make your life so much easier. And yeah, you spend, let's say, $100 on add-ons, but compared to other softwares, with Blender you just spend this money once, and then you have them for life. And these guys keep on upgrading them, making them better day by day, basically. And like I remember buying hard ops for $5 or maybe even less, like when Jerry released it for the first time. And now it's like a tool worth so much more money, but the guy keeps on updating for free. So it's like it's the best community service that I saw everywhere. Here I'm ripping the edges apart with V. Basically I select an edge loop with Alt and clicking on an edge, and then I press V, and that rips the geometry. And then you can separate if you want. You can select the whole island with Ctrl L, selecting the connected geometry, and you just press P if you want to make it as a different object. And the cool part is that object that you make as a separate object will retain all the modifiers, all the settings basically. And here, like what I'm doing basically is like I'm cleaning up that mesh. I'm looking at the angles. I'm trying to align this angle with the side angle here, because our brain likes to see things like this, and it is just something that we look for without knowing. I was kind of dreading working on the cockpit because I knew it won't be a central piece. I just wanted to work overall on the mech and not care. Because this cockpit can be a really huge time sink for a design. I think I would need as much time as I used on the mech to make a really cool interior for the cockpit. But for now I'm just adding elements and I'm trying to trick the viewer that there's detail there. Using the solidify modifier. So I removed that ball and I added the cylinder, and I'm gonna mimic some sort of cap on which later on I'm gonna add some holes, some bolts. And I really like this creating bars with the skin modifier, because then you can pick whatever vertex you want and you can extrude it and see it's nice connected. It's like it was welded there. Alright, here I separated, not in this video, but a while ago I separated this whole back thing on a different layer, so I could work a bit focused on it. It's nice sometimes to see just what you need to work on and not all the clutter and the rest of the geometry. And that helps us make a more focused work on the design part. Here I'm trying to make a Boolean shape, so I just suggest some indent there. This is what I like about hard surface stuff. You can repeat a lot of elements over and over again. So you just need to model once and then you just clone it over. And by the way, the shortcut for cloning is Shift D. And with Alt D, you can make an instance clone. So what that does that do is, like, if you enter in object mode with tab, whatever elements you clone with Alt D, they're gonna edit in the same time as the object that you're editing, and it's quite useful. But I don't really like to clone with Alt D because I don't think booleans work when you try to boolean stuff. Here I added the extension bar, and then I rolled it back up to see how it fits, and I noticed that it doesn't fit in the black shell, so I just changed the shape of that. And also I cloned those tiny teeth with Shift R. You do the first cloning with Shift D, so Blender knows what you want, and then you press Shift R as many times as you need the element. It's a cool trick. But basically Shift R is repeating the last action that you did. So if you extrude something and you want to extrude it the same amount, you extrude it once and then you press Shift R, and there you go. Here I made a bold transformation, just a very strong scale. And it's important sometimes to be very bold when you're doing an action, because I don't know, it kind of shows confidence in a way. And I like that shape so much better now that it's as strong as it is now. Here you're gonna see me create a fence or a net guard for the cockpit. And the way I'm gonna do that is with array modifiers. So I'm applying a first array in order to multiply the shape on the z-axis. So see, I create a long string. Then I'm gonna add another array here at the right. And I'm gonna tell, okay, now you need to offset this a bit on one side and then a bit up. And that needs to be counted twice, right? So we generate the base of the grid. And then a third array, you're just gonna move this whole selection as long as you want. But here, I'm not gonna keep in this design, this fence, so it's gonna be here for a certain time and then we're gonna say bye-bye to it. So I think it's safe to scroll, to go a bit forward. Again, I was trying to integrate more the net, but it didn't really make sense where I wanted to add the details, so I'm gonna end up deleting them anyway. So I think I can move a bit forward. Here I added this shape for the legs. Box cutter. The way you activate box cutter is Alt and W, and then press D and choose your cutter type. You can have a circle, box, or n-gon. And so far the guys implemented the circle and the box in 2.8, and they're working on the n-gon. Once they're gonna implement the n-gon, I'm gonna do all my cutting in 2.8, because I don't know, it's really amazing. Here is another shape that I'm gonna give up on because I don't know, I don't like how it looks. And also, in order to exit from box cutter, you need to press escape. So now I have box cutter active, even though I'm not using it. You can see like click for help here is like from box cutter. And I don't mind having box cutter active all the time, but sometimes if I want a shortcut, a specific shortcut, like select the shortest path, it doesn't work. And Shift Z, if I want to go to render mode in cycles, again, it doesn't work because that's another shortcut that's set up in box cutter. That probably can change, but I use more the shortest path, which is like clicking on a vertex, face, or edge, and then control clicking on another vertex, edge, or face that's further away. So Blender can decide what's the shortest path, so that's how you can select some tricky edges or verts or faces. But when box cutter is active, it doesn't work. Okay, trying to close that hole. So I'm trying with simple geometry. I did 2 extrusions in the right, and then I added a support edge here, and then I'm trying to place everything so there's no holes left there. And here I'm trying to just arrange the verts. And after I'm gonna add the subsurf modifier, because this is much simpler geometry and it's not gonna be bumpy or lumpy. I didn't do any extreme shit here. The part that I hate the most about my design is the chair, which I end up changing in the end a bit, but still it's like it's very horrific. But this guy is staying on top of it, so it's not that visible. You're gonna see. Here I'm sculpting or modeling another kit bash part. I intend to use it as a hose insert point. Nothing too fancy. I use box cutter to make some round holes. And again, I recommend setting up the modifier first before starting to clone it. Like if you want it mirrored on the other side, there's no point in putting it everywhere and then trying to find every shape and applying the mirror modifier. Just set it up once and then clone that, because the clone is gonna inherit all the details of the first copy. Oh, another guy that I forgot to mention is Zacharia Reinhardt. I think that's how it goes on YouTube too. I don't remember if he has a special YouTube channel name. But this guy is super good on sculpting in Blender and also other stuff. He won a lot of contests on ArtStation, and he's a great guy to learn from. So definitely check him out. Here I'm modeling the cables with as little geometry as I can. Then I select all the verts. I bevel them with Ctrl Shift B. And then I choose Relax and Space in the Loop Tools add-on here on the left. Loop Tools, if I remember right, doesn't come activated in Blender, so you need to go into the file, user preference, add-ons, and activate loop tools. Here I'm playing with this shoulder gear. I'm trying to give a bit of detail. Probably there, where at the top of the sphere I use Alt S, and that scales along the normal. So, or along the, it tries to go towards the center. So it's a good shortcut to know. I'm gonna talk more in the separate video about shortcuts and stuff. Here I use the cursor as a pivot to rotate those shapes. And you can choose the pivot from here. It's like this menu here at the bottom corner left. Right now it's set on cursor, but most of the time it's set on individual origins. Alright, here I'm gonna use Marvelous to add the cloth protection for the cables in the back. I had a lot of trouble. I don't know Marvelous, so it was like a learning experience for me too. Basically I drew the shape with this tool here, and then I cloned it, and then I sew it with this tool, or this one. And yeah, just go on YouTube and try to find some tutorials. That's how I learned it too. And the tricky part about Marvelous is that you need to import an avatar. So here I use OpenVDB remesher to make all my mech into a single mesh. Then I think I sent it to ZBrush to decimate it, so it's as low res as possible. I think this one has like 10,000 polygons, maybe less. And then like I found it quite tricky to import at the right scale in Marvelous. So the trick I used, I created the human in DAZ, I exported as OBJ, I imported it into a Blender session. Then I took this model, put it in the same model, in the same scene as the avatar, and then scaled him until it was the same size. And then I imported him in Marvelous, and that did the trick, because I tried like 4 or 5 times to import, but the scale was fucked up every time, so I didn't know how to fix it. I added this repeating lines by selecting the edges and then right click and repeat as internal shape. And that basically will make everything like it's sewn. Sorry, I don't know English for this kind of talk. So it's gonna seem like it has stitching there. And what else do you need to know? If you click on this thing where it says fabric 1, you can choose what type of fabric you want here then in the physical property. Watch out, if you click in this draft view, the settings will change and you're gonna have different settings. So I searched for that fabric type like quite a lot of time till I found it. I didn't know I had to click on fabric. Here I'm doing some shitty stuff that's not gonna make it in the end, so I'm gonna skip ahead. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Then I lowered the how do you call it? The distance particle. It's somewhere around here. So let me see if I see it. particle distance. I just saw it for a second here. The lower you make it, the higher resolution the mesh is gonna be, and the slower the simulation is gonna be. But you're gonna get a better quality. So yeah, once I did that, I exported this and I imported it back into Blender. Then I scaled it and moved it into place. Enter in edit mode with tab, and I pressed O, so I activate soft selection. And then I just selected a vertex, and you just position everything. If you roll the scroll wheel, you're gonna see a white circle appearing or disappearing. The bigger that circle is, the softer the selection is gonna be, and the smaller it is, the sharper. So, and here I'm using Mr. Gleb's and Mr. Adibar's kit bash set from their hard surface modeling that I told you about. They released this pack for us to use whenever we want, I hope. But yeah, let me talk a bit about kit bashing. I think it's a really great tool, but a lot of people start kit bashing without any purpose. They don't create any design, they just like kit bash. And I would rather explore the kit bash part of the process when it comes to detailing, when you just need to add some cherry on top of the cake. Because you can end up with designs that don't look coherent at all. Like, I made so many choices till this point that make this design efficient, I think. And if I would have started directly with the kit bash, I think there would have been a problem. Okay, so here I finally smartened up and I applied the modifier before cloning. I'm also trying to take kit bash parts that are not very detailed. I don't want to take their design. I just want to emphasize my design, you know? And if I take something that's really well done and detailed and looks like it has a different visual language, it's gonna show in the end on my design. So I don't want that. So that's why I'm just taking like super simple stuff. I stay away from the more detailed pieces. Probably on the joint should have picked up a different one. So see how simple this one is, and it's a very nice shape. It's not gonna steal any attention. It seems also functional. It's like a docking thing for an object. I tend to go over the top a bit here with the kit bash parts. I just clone them too many times. But I will end up deleting some of them as I progress with this mech. Here I wanted the same object but with different height, so I just entered in edit mode, so I made sure the pivot point was a bit lower, and the pivot point is that yellow dot. When you enter in edit mode you see it, or when you select a mesh. And now again I wanted the same element but with a smaller scale. Here I added a bit too many details, I think. But just with this simple kit bash parts, it already looks more final, the design. It's kind of crazy. And I really went bananas. It's actually, maybe it's not the first time, but I rarely use Kit Bash parts from other people. But I keep on buying a Photo Bash reference and a Kit Bash reference, and I never use it. And this time I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna try. I didn't want to have this tutorial extend also for like a million hours, so this helps, just adding this part. Here I'm kind of avoiding working on the hands, I think. Like they were kind of scary. And this is how the Mech looks so far in Octane, with some default materials. So yeah, for a long time the hands were kind of scary because no, their hands, they have to be there, but it's like people avoid them. But here I'm gonna model something just as a example of a fun exercise that you could do every day. Just model one of two parts like this without any purpose, but useful for your future projects if you really like hard surface. Again, just add primitives, cylinders. Remember, if you're gonna remesh everything into high res, add the cylinders with more subdivisions, not like I did. So you won't see that faceted look. As you can see, it's very, very simple. I just clone stuff, and I try to give a story in the back of my head for this device that I'm modeling right now, and it's gonna be a cable hub. And this people are gonna just like input cables, and maybe it's kind of part of the fluid dynamics of the Mech somewhere. I think I end up putting it on the back of the Mech. It's not gonna be visible, but yeah, I quite like it. And I'm using like super simple tools like creating boxes, some bevels on them, then booleaning them out of other shapes, and this is how you create more complex stuff. It's not that complicated. I think the more complicated part of 3D modeling is when you need to make something super precise, like a car shape. There's no easy way to fake that. You just really need to go in there and model everything. Sure, there are tricks that Mr. Chris Plush might show you in his tutorial, but in the end, it's a very lengthy process. So here I remeshed everything together with OpenVDB, but I kept a few parts on separate layers, or like as separate, because I thought maybe I'm gonna add a different material. Here I added a torus object, Shift A. You have a lot of options on what to add. not just spheres and boxes and cylinders. Uh, we arrived at the infamous chair modeling part, which I don't like at all, but it's here. Here I did the mistakes of remeshing too soon. I could have done all these operations before remeshing and just making a final remesh at the end. I was just really excited with the new tool. But yeah, the design, I feel it's really bad on this one, and it's gonna change a bit. Towards the end. So don't mind if I skip ahead a bit. In order to make the butt print on the chair, I cloned his legs, separated them, and then made a Boolean subtraction there. And here for these cushions, I just made the box, applied. I didn't even apply solidify. I just extruded it, and oh no, actually I applied solidify and then subsurf, and then I mirrored it, and then I cloned it a few times. Very repetitive process. So yeah, like the chair looks really bad now, but it's such a minor part of the Mech that it's not gonna be super visible. I would approach designing the chair the same way I approached the Mech. I would do it separately, and I would put a lot more time. And then I would draw on top of my base to make a cool idea, and then model it again in 3D. I'm installing a grill, which is not hard to do, but why do it if this guy's already done it? And here I'm using box cutter in order to cut. And then I mirror. Details with, shapes with small details like this can help sell more the scale of the Mech, because right now I think I have a problem with the scale. It doesn't feel like it's a huge Mech because I added a lot of big shapes, and it really needs some really small details. Here I use again the lattice to change the shape of this grill. Just remember, with the lattice it's super important to not go in object mode and change the vert position and set it up like that. For a long time I didn't understand why I cannot use the lattice modifier. So here I smarten up a bit and I start to realize that the scale is all fucked up, so I'm gonna change the size of some elements. Here I activated snapping with Shift Tab. I chose face, and then I created the vertex, which I extruded. And after I had the basic shape, I pressed F twice, and then I extruded it to create it into a big shape. But before I extrude it, I deactivated the snapping, because if you try to extrude and you're in object mode and you have snapping on, it's gonna stick everything, I think, to the face. And these things you're gonna learn as you make mistakes. Like, there's no easy way to learn everything at once. You're not gonna remember 90% of the time telling you here, and almost everything that I'm showing you here is super simple, that it took me so long to learn, like 2-3 years. So don't be too harsh on yourself in the beginning. Knife project again, to add some details on the forklifter. I really like to draw like this because I can really plan the shapes. And what I'm trying to here is to achieve the same thickness distance in between the holes that I'm gonna put. Selecting the cutter, then the object, then pressing knife project, and then extrude inside. And with all these cutters, I don't delete them, I put them on a separate layer because then I'm gonna reuse them on other projects. There is no point in recreating that same cutter ever again. I'm just gonna put it somewhere in a Blender file, like a master Blender file that I can forever use. I figure out here we need some more holes. Like this tool, the more holes it has, the better it is for connecting cables to it and making sure that the stuff that you put on it, it's gonna stay there. I separated that face, then I extruded it and cloned it, and now again I'm doing the knife project trick. I'm just eyeballing it. You could be super precise if you use like Moi, but in the end I'm doing the same thing and I don't need to leave Blender, which is fine. But don't get me wrong, Moi is amazing. I'm this Christmas vacation I spent time learning it, and I'm gonna implement it in my basic workflow. I customized the shit out of it because it has, for some reason, a really weird system where you need to write the shortcuts that you want to use. So it's not. I think that's its biggest minus. You cannot assign a simple shortcut fast. You just need to write the command and find the list of commands online, and it's very shitty in that matter. Here I selected every object that I wanted to cut, and then I press space. Not every object, every face. And that's how you can slice some polygons, some specific polygons. If you select everything, the entire mesh, it's like using a ninja sword and cutting through it. Adding some more nuts and bolts. Here I'm gonna try to model for a second the hook, but it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna model it another time. And here it's a shape that won't make it into the final. So I guess I can skip ahead a bit. And soon I think I'm gonna try to connect this back part to the actual mech, because right now it's not connected. Here is my least favorite part after the chair. I should have thought better the design here. It's just things crashing into each other, and that doesn't suggest design, that suggests laziness. I'm gonna check a second if it's still recording. Yes. I don't know how to rig cables. I think you need to learn how to use bones, because it would be super cool to actually rig this entire mech and show how it can move. But because of those cables, I'm not gonna be able right now with my knowledge to pose the mech as I want. but probably you can do it um, without bones and whatever riggers use, and use it with some constraints and some vertex groups. But yeah, like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sure Chris Plush is gonna Chris Khan would be like, oh, it's super simple. You just need to do this, and this, and then like 5 hours later, I'm still trying to figure out what he's doing. He's a super good teacher, but like he's also very smart. So the things that they explain, they're not that simple sometimes. And yeah, I just try to replicate sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to press this button or that button. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Guess I'm just adding more details here and there. Let's skip ahead a bit. Here I was rescaling some of the elements. And here I tried to connect this hip guard, I would say, to the pelvis, but it was awkward. And I did something that I kind of regret. I scaled it down and moved it inwards, and at the time I didn't see, but it's very, like, makes everything flat. So it's not a big problem, but I can resize it back in the actual model that I have ended up with. But see how ugly this line looks now. It doesn't have that diagonal anymore. And I ended up connecting it to the joint super simple, like like this. And yeah, it would have worked without scaling the element. But yeah, I can go back anytime now and alter it, but it's not gonna be in this video. Okay, next video. Here I'm adjusting a bit the cables with the soft selection. Press O while you're in edit mode. And even if you're not in edit mode, you're still gonna activate it. So if you try to move something and everything comes after that thing, maybe you have soft selection activated, so just press O. Here I'm using the kit bash part that we created a while ago. And I'm just gonna plug cables inside with the solidify, with the skin modifier and subsurf. Again, you can do this super easy by buying the Speed Sculpt add-on, and you have these options right there. You just need to put the cursor where you want to create the thing, and then it's gonna be initialized like exactly like this, and then you just need to extrude. Don't need to do anything. But if you want to be slow, and don't buy the add-on. Okay, here I'm gonna do some knife project again. Cloning some nuts. And putting one of these suckers on every cable, so they don't look like they're plugged into nothing. But even like this, I think should have modeled something more there. And here where the thick cable is, this dark part that inserts, I think it would have been nice to just VDB remesh it so it's like one object. Okay, here I decide to work a bit more on this back forklifter thing. Let's skip ahead because nothing special is happening. It's just like I'm cloning stuff, cutting with booleans, then adding another box, putting it into place. And here I started modeling the connection part for the forklifter and the mech torso. Nothing fancy here either. Everything is simple. I really made that piece work for itself. I maybe spent like 2 minutes creating it and then I used it like so many times. And again, in order to clone stuff and put it on other surfaces without doing too much work, you need to activate the snapping tools or the magnet that you see here at the middle of the screen. And then choose face. And also click on this sphere with the blue line on it. That will make sure that you are aligning everything well. Okay, knife project again. I will skip this part ahead because it's not gonna end up in the final design anyway, so, and it's the same technique. And here too, I am using knife project to project on the shoulder guards. This was already a high-res mesh, and when I was done, I just moved them on a separate layer and then remeshed that, so it looks nicer. And here I'm building some sort of hook for the yellow protective parts to be held in place. And I'm just placing it around. These shapes really talk to the viewer without talking, you know. They're kind of explaining how this was put together and how to disassemble it. So as an exercise, you can go in your apartment and try to find the objects, look at them, and try to find the logic why things were assembled the way they were assembled. And maybe you can steal some real-life design techniques. I'm faking everything here, so I'm just a big pretender. hopefully soon I'm gonna start working on the hands because they're the part that kind of stand out the most as not worked. And on these big cylinders, just adding some simple cuts, like with Shift R you add a line and then you can bevel it with Control B and then another Shift R to add another line in the middle, Alt S to scale towards the midpoint. And they're just tiny details that will be visible in the end. They add a bit of visual noise. I've chose to cut that shape because it was protruding in the back and you could see like the, the circle.